Hi, my name is Linda Miner and I am a registered nutritionist. In this video, I'm going to be explaining the Zen Body shape and the science behind this product. Zen Body Slimming from JEUNESSE is a range of products that is absolutely phenomenal in helping people to burn fat and build muscle tissue. I'm specifically going to be talking about the Zen shape and how that product works in this process. So here are the ingredients in the Zen Body shape. Well trim, which is African mango seed extract. That is one of the, probably the most important ingredient in this. The choline bitartrate, the green tea leaf extract, which is 98% polyphenols, raspberry ketones, inositol, and chromium picolinate. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner the research material that I used to gather the information for this show. So let's first of all talk about the vicious cycle of weight loss. If you've ever tried to lose weight, that's the start of your problems right there, because you join a gym, you cut back on food, calorie counting and food restriction starts the cycle that leads to hormonal imbalances. Shortly, we're going to talk about a hormone, ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. As soon as you start cutting calories, you are increasing the amount of hunger hormone that you're producing in your body, and that begins the hormonal imbalance that creates all these problems. So maybe initially you have some success, but because you're on a typical weight loss program that causes you to lose muscle tissue along with fat because you're restricting your calories, your metabolism starts to slow down, which slows down your progress. You hit a wall because your hunger hormone is producing far too much, so you're hungry all the time, which then maybe causes you to binge and overeat, and now you fall off the wagon and you gain back more weight than you lost. And because of the loss of muscle tissue while you were on this calorie restrictive diet, you have less muscle, which slows down your metabolism. So now the weight you gain back is fat. It's really important to understand that if the body is in a state of starvation, it will use up muscle tissue before it uses up fat. It will actually cannibalize its own muscle tissue before it cannibalizes fat. That's the priority list for the human body. So you need to understand that if you've been restricting calories, you have been potentially cannibalizing your own muscle tissue. So here are the things that cause obesity: an imbalance between energy intake and energy expenditure, the calories in, calories out. I'm not a big believer in that, except that when your hormones are messed up, you end up eating too much, more than what your body needs, because you're not getting the trigger to tell your body to stop eating. So that is where that comes into play. But cutting calories does not fix that. Hormonal imbalances we're going to talk about here, genetic factors, and physiological and molecular mechanisms influencing body fat regulation. That's the big problem. That's where the obesity is coming from. So leptin is a hormone that goes to our brain that tells us that we're full and to stop eating. So people who are sensitive to leptin, they don't have a problem with body weight. They're totally in balance. But people who've become leptin resistance, which is created by a number of different factors, especially stress, poor eating habits, etc., these people become overweight. So here are the three hormones that are really important. I'm not going to read all of this. So if you want to read this information, you can pause the recording here and have a look at it. Basically, we're going to talk about ghrelin, which is the hormone that is produced by your stomach that induces hunger. So when you haven't eaten for a while, let's say first thing when you wake up in the morning, your stomach has shrunk, your body releases ghrelin to say, time to eat, you're hungry. And that's an important hormone, because if you didn't have that, you might forget to eat and then you could starve. So it is an important hormone. Leptin is the hormone that goes to our brain that tells us you're full. I'm full and I don't need to store any fat because there's no famine. There's more than enough food. I'm not going to starve, so I don't need to store fat. And then insulin regulates the metabolism of carbohydrates and fats in the body and helps the body to use glucose. And glucose is the good sugar that our muscles need and our brain needs to help us function. So here's the vicious cycle of leptin resistance. If you've ever made pasta, you know that you boil it in water and then you have a strainer in the sink and you pour the pasta into the strainer and the water strains out through the holes and the pasta remains. And the reason for that is water molecules are small, so it can pass through the holes, but pasta is big, so it cannot pass through the holes, and that's how the strainer works. The brain has something similar. It's called the blood-brain barrier, and this allows small molecules like water and blood to pass through the brain, but it stops large molecules like mercury or dangerous toxins from getting into the brain. It's a protective barrier for the brain. So in the brain, we receive the message from our body from leptin to tell us that we're full and to stop storing fat. The problem is, as we overeat and have inflammation in our body produces something called C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein binds to leptin. Now the leptin is too big. It's become like the pasta. It can no longer pass through that strainer. It can no longer pass through the blood-brain barrier to get to the hypothalamus in our brain to tell us, stop eating, you're full, and stop storing fat. The opposite of which is keep eating and store fat. And so the body is continuously storing fat. Even if you're eating a salad or lettuce and cucumbers and food that should not be causing you to gain weight, if this leptin mechanism is not working properly in your brain, then your body is going to store fat. Okay, so the number one trigger, chronic stress. Your stress level increases. Increases your cortisol. That lowers your leptin sensitivity, which makes you hungry all the time, and that leads to fat storage and an increase in weight. Now, you may not think that you have a lot of stress in your life, but for most people, stress has become chronic, and they don't even realize that they have it because it's just become normal for them. You get up in the morning, you got to get ready for work, you got to get the kids ready for school, you got to get lunches made, get everybody off and on their way. Now you're sitting in traffic, you got a job to get to, whether you love your job or hate your job, there's going to be stress associated with that job for getting the work done on time and dealing with coworkers, getting sales, whatever it is you do. Or if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're busy with taking kids on school trips and cleaning up and doing groceries and getting meals made and just all the things associated with that. And then at the end of the day, it's getting dinner on the table, helping the kids with homework, trying to get everybody into bed on time, and then you go to sleep and probably go to bed too late and then don't have a good night's sleep, which leads to trigger number 2, which is sleep deprivation. And I won't go through all of this again, but this leads to obesity and ultimately metabolic syndrome, which is type 2 diabetes. And then, sorry, that should say trigger number 3, which is chronic dieting. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're dieting, your body is losing muscle tissue because your body is going to cannibalize its own muscle. This reduces the amount of lean muscle tissue, which reduces your metabolism, which creates this ongoing cycle of storing more fat in your body, and it's created inflammation, hormonal imbalance, etc. So that is the third big issue. So let's talk now about the solution. Now, the main ingredient in this, as I said, is African mango seed extract, or also known as Ervingia gabonensis. In a clinical study over the course of 10 weeks, the people who were using the Ervingia lost on average 28 pounds. They lost 5.7 inches off their waist and 18.5% body fat. So you see there's a huge reduction in body fat. In fact, the 28 pounds that they lost was fat, and a lot of people actually gained muscle tissue during this time as well. Now, what's important to know is that people did not alter their diet in any way, nor did they change their exercise program in any way. They still kept doing the same thing they were doing all along. All they did was add the Ervingia gabonensis. Also, what they found with this study was that people did better in the second 5 weeks than in the first 5 weeks. With most weight loss programs, in the first week, you lose maybe 5 or 10 pounds, and then the second week it's 3 pounds, and then 2 pounds, and then 1, and down it goes. That's because many weight loss products have diuretics in them. A diuretic is something that makes you go to the bathroom a lot. Well, that's a bad thing because you need a lot of water in your body to metabolize fat and build muscle tissue. So we don't want that. Also, people who are cutting back on calories, they are then creating that cycle that we mentioned earlier where you've got a reduction in muscle tissue. With the Ervingia gabonensis, what's happening is you're gradually reducing the inflammation that you have in your body, you're reducing the amount of C-reactive protein that you produce, and you're creating a barrier so the C-reactive protein does not bind to the leptin. So your results improve over time as you have less inflammation, more leptin production, less C-reactive protein, less binding of the C-reactive protein, more muscle tissue being created, less fat being stored. Your results improve more and more and more. So we see people who are using these products are continuing to get better results the longer they are on it, because you're fixing the problem in your brain that is causing this to happen. And no amount of willpower is going to fix that. You need to actually get to the molecular level, get to the hormones to have them be fixed. So here is what's happening on leptin. This is the leptin sensitivity, leptin resistance, sorry. The leptin resistance is dropping over time, so you're getting better and better leptin function in the body. And the leptin functions, as it says here, to turn off the appetite while promoting the breakdown of stored triglycerides and that bloat adipocytes. Adipocytes are fat cells. So we all have the same number of fat cells in our body all the time. We don't get new fat cells. Our fat cells just get bigger. So that's what we want to reverse, is to get our fat cells smaller again. Here's another effect on total cholesterol. Look at the drop in total cholesterol. That looks like it's about 27% drop if you look at that statistic. And the LDL, same thing. And you can see week 10 is significantly better than week 4. So that's what I was referring to, that the results get better and better and better. Here are some before and after results. Again, I won't go through all of these in terms of reading them. You can have a look yourself and pause at this and see what has happened. This lady has lost 48 inches and 23 pounds. Ken had trouble with exercise, but you can see he's lost 10 inches off his waist. Sherry, this lady is a grandmother of 10. Hard to believe. She looks younger now than she did before. She'd been in an accident that had caused a head injury that had interrupted this hormonal system in her brain and would caused her to gain a whole bunch of weight. The Zen shape and the whole body system helped her to normalize that again. This is a couple here. Cheryl had trouble losing that last 10 pounds, that little bit of a gut. She wasn't tremendously overweight, but she just couldn't lose that last 10. And her husband, Tom, who has lost 40 inches. And through this program, he was not able to exercise because of health issues. So it is possible to lose weight and, lose fat and build muscle tissue even without exercising. Although, of course, your results will be so much better if you do exercise. And finally, we have Ray, who looks 20 years younger, has lost 35 inches, and also was someone who was in pain before he started this program and is now out of pain. Absolutely amazing. So all of the people who have used this have seen amazing results: loss of body fat, increase of muscle tissue, loss of inflammation, loss of pain in their body. This is a unique product that you won't find anywhere else on the market. If you really want to lose that fat, you need to get the hormones working in your brain the way that they're supposed to. And Zen Shape is going to make that happen.